of Fresno, and I was telling others during the dinner time that he is the best speaker, mashallah, of this family night. So, with all respect, we invite Brother Abdul Quayyum Khan Kundi. You all know, you all tried his name. I won't ask you again, maybe some other time. We don't have today, have a shortened time. So, you all know the topic. Who knows the topic? Allah?
Malik.
It's Malik or Malik?
Malik.
Well, he's going to resolve the issue. We had a lot of discussion last night on that. Malik or Malik, inshallah. He's going to explain to us. That's the reason we are all here to learn. Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam. First of all, I want to thank my dean, Uzair, Imtiaz, Hadiya, Nina, Noor, everybody that organized today's evening. Thank you very much. And thank you to all of you for coming today for this lecture. Thank you, because the weekend night, everybody has plans, but every Friday you come and make this center come alive with you. So thank you very much for coming. When Uzair asked me to speak today, I was thinking, what should I talk about, right? And then I as Muslim is God, right? That's La ilaha is the first part of being Muslim, right? There's God, no God but God. So if we want to be a good Muslim, one of our responsibilities is to understand our relationship with God. Because if we don't understand that, we won't be good Muslims, we won't be living a life of a good Muslim. So I thought this Friday we should talk about God. What it means to believe in God. What is God? And what is our relationship with God? So I picked up, as you all know, we know that there are 99 names of God, right, that we know and we learn about. First of all, God is not limited to those 99 names. Take it out of your mind. So God is too big an entity for those 99 names, right? We know you can write, you can use the water of all the seas, but you won't be reaching the essence of God. So 99 names, what does those 99 names means? Okay, why they are important? Those 99 names of God are for us and our relationship with God. It has nothing more to do with God. Those 99 names are for us to understand what is our relationship with God. God is Ghani. One of the name of God is Ghani, which means He is free from all needs. He does not need our prayers. He does not need our Islam. He is beyond. He has no need. He has no son, no daughter, no relation, no equal. He is beyond all that. He is Ghani. That's one of His names. So those 99 names that we have are for us to understand what is our relationship with God. Okay? Those 99 names are for humans, not for animals. When you say Kahar, it doesn't mean anything for a lion. When you say Jabbar, it doesn't mean anything for an ant, or a bird, or eagle. So those 99 names are for humans who has free will and its relationship with God. These 99 names are not for jinn, not for angels. So those 99 names define our relationship with God.
Try moving a little bit.
Okay.
In a different spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's one thing to remember. So out of those 99 names, we can't talk about, scholars and Sufis have spent years decades to understand few names. So we can't talk about those 99 names in one Friday night evening. So I picked up one name that we will try to understand and make an effort. I'm not sure if you will understand it, but we'll make an effort to understand one name of God, and that is Al-Malik. Al-Malik means He is the owner of everything. He is the king of everything. Everything, you, me, these chairs, these Maideen, this city, this earth, sun, galaxies, everything belongs to God. He is the owner. Nobody else. He is the ultimate owner of everything, and that's what is called Al-Malik. There is another name, which is Malikul Mulk. So why would there be two names that have almost same meaning? Malik is for individual. You, me. How do we understand Malik? Our relationship with God as Malik and a slave. Malikul Mulk is the relationship for politicians who become too big in power and think that they own the country or they are the biggest shot in the country. They should remember Malikul Mulk. He is the owner of all domains. Not any king, not any prime minister or a president or any dictator. So Malikul Mulk is more for those who believe that they own countries and power and all that. While Al-Malik is for individual, for you and me, and our relationship with God and what belongs in this world. And then I always start with the story of Adam, because the story of Adam, it is one of the stories that has been repeated many times in different ways explained in Quran. It is the most basic story. So everything we want to understand about God and our relationship, we have to go back to the story of Adam, because we are still living that story. That story is still going on. So now imagine Adam being created and he was told to live in heaven. He doesn't own heaven. Adam does not own heaven. He is a renter. He is renting his space. He has been given a rental contract. That go live in this space, you can do everything you like, but you cannot touch that tree. That's the only condition in that contract. Whatever you want, everything is yours. Enjoy, have fun, eat, whatever you want in heaven is yours, but don't touch that tree. That's the rental contract. Alright? One condition. What does Adam do? And we all have to come here for that story. He violates the contract. He violates the contract. The Al-Malik says, the owner, God, he says, get out. Get out of this heaven. You have violated the contract. You cannot live any longer. And he is thrown out of there. And then he asks for forgiveness. Right? And God says, okay, he is merciful. He is Rahim. We know one of his names. Rahman and Rahim. He says, okay, I can forgive you, but you have to suffer. You have to pay the penalty, pay the price for this violation. So we are all here, living that story. But Adam's story continues in all of us. Right? We know the Adam story, we know the mistake he made, but we continue making those mistakes. So one of the mistakes we do is we say we are the owners, right? We know the story of that bragging man who had a lot of gardens. He was rich and powerful, and he was bragging about his property. And I will read those verses to you. This is Al-Kahf, Surah number 18, verses 32 to 44. Set forth to them the parable of two men. For one of them we provided 2 gardens of grapevines and surrounded them with date palms. In between the two we placed cornfields. This is God talking to us. Remember this. One thing about Quran is God talking to us. As a friend, as a mentor, as a guide, as somebody who promised Adam, I'll help you. God is narrating, remember this is very important. God is talking to us. These are words of God. God is telling us the story of these two men. Each of those gardens brought forth its produce, and field not in the least therein. The midst of them we cause a river to flow. So God is explaining the whole scene. There are big gardens, there are cornfields in the middle, there is a river flowing, imagine that. Abundant was the produce this man had. He said to his companion, in the course of a mutual argument, like bragging, they were bragging and then an argument, more wealth I have than you, bragger, ego. I have more wealth than you, and more honor and power because of the money. He said, I have more honor and power. I am the owner, Al-Malik. He's claiming to be Al-Malik. Stupid man. And in my following of men, he went to his garden in a state of mind unjust to his soul. He forgot he is not Al-Malik. He's just renting like Adam. He's bragging, I am Al-Malik. And he's unjust to his soul because he's bragging that he's the owner. He's not. And he's unjust to his soul. And he says, I deem not that this will ever perish. He said, this will never perish. I will always be rich and powerful. Nor do I deem that the honor of judgment will ever come. Even if I am brought back to my Lord, I shall surely find there something better in exchange. He even says, after life I will be better off. Because I am rich, I am powerful, he may be doing good deeds. And he claimed that even in the afterlife he foresees that he will be well off. His companion said to him, in the course of the argument with him, those thou deny him who created thee out of dust, then out of a spun drop, then fashioned thee into a man. But I think for my part that he is Allah, my Lord, and none shall I associate with my Lord. Why dost thou not, as thou wantest thou into thy garden, say, Allah's will be done? There is no power but with Allah. And if thou dost see me less than thee in wealth and sons, it may be that my Lord will give me something better than thy garden, and that he will send on thy garden thunderbolts by the way of reckoning from heaven and making it. So his friend is saying, don't brag. You're not the owner, you're just a renter. Be humble. And something can strike you, some tragedy can come to you. So he is kind of advising him, guiding him not to be too arrogant. Or the water of the garden will run off underground so that thou wilt never be able to find it. So his fruit and enjoyment were encompassed with ruin, and he remained twisting and turning his hand over what he had spent on his property, which has now tumbled to pieces to his very foundation. And he could only say, woe is me, would I had never ascribed partners to my Lord and cherished. In this story, the God is reminding us that He is Al-Malik. We know that Quran talks about that God does have to work hard. We have to strive for prosperity, but it's God who decides how much assets we will have in this life. When we all talk about Inna Lillahi wa Inna Ilaihi Raji'un, this is confirmation of Al-Malik. Every time you have a loss, you have an accident, you have fire, you lose a property, you lose a son, you lose a daughter, you lose a partner. Whenever you lose something, you say Inna Lillahi wa Inna Ilaihi Raji'un. That's acceptance of Al-Malik. Because only He gives and He takes. And it helps us because we feel we can bear our sorrow because of this understanding that everything is from God and everything is ultimately returned to God. Now, how do we apply this Al-Malik in our lives? That's the next question, right? If He is the owner, we are only renting it for a short time. then what is the value of private property and inheritance? For that, I am going to tell you another verse from Quran, which is Surah Al-Nur 24, verse 29. It is not fault on your part to enter houses not used for living, in which serve some other use for it, and Allah has knowledge of what you reveal and what you conceal. It's a very important verse. If you have a house, let's say there, mashallah, we have some people who are wealthy, they have multiple houses. This verse is saying, if there is a house that nobody is using, 3 years, 5 years, how much time, if a property is abandoned, somebody else can use it? Answer I got. I am not saying it's a firm answer, I am just telling you what I learned. It's 3 years. If a property is laying vacant for 3 years and somebody needs an accommodation, they can break the lock and enter that house and live there. Why? Because we are not the owners. We are not the owners. We are renting. 3 years vacant, somebody needs it. Al-Malik says to that person, you have the right to enter and live in that house. I mean, imagine Quran's message that accumulating wealth without use for it is not good. Okay, you get a property, you rent it, somebody is living, right? You can give them a discount, be kind to them. Maybe if they're tough time, you can say, okay, 3 months don't pay me rent, right? You do some good. But if a house is vacant, and you know people who are rich who have vacant houses, not allowed. You can't do it. Whatever property you have to put it into use. If you keep it vacant, according to Quran, anybody can enter that house and use it if they need accommodation. Very important. The other is inheritance. If Al-Malik, you are not Al-Malik. You are renting everything. Al-Malik says you have to, when you are leaving this world, you have to give property in a certain formula, you have to follow it. He is Al-Malik, you are not. So people that question, why should I follow inheritance or why I shouldn't do it? You don't have the right, you are not the owner. The owner says this is how you leave it. Owner could have said, you die and you lose everything. God could have said that, right? God could have said, you die, you leave everything. It's none of your business. Other people will decide. You don't have a decision. He could have said it. But he respects. He's merciful. He's reign. He said, when you leave, this is how you divide it. You can't have any questions about it. He is the owner. So you have to follow the law of inheritance. That is prescribed in Quran. If you don't, you are violating the right of Al-Malik. And then finally, I don't like to make big speeches. So finally, and then we have discussion, is the role of state. What is the state's role? What is the government role in private property? Because this is a political question, right? When you do legislation, you have to follow Quran. When you do laws, you have to follow the teachings of Quran. So what is the role of a state? If individual is not the owner, if God is the owner, individual is renting, then what is the role of a state in private property? The state's role, as I understand, is a role of arbiter. You live alive, you work hard, you create property. God says that's how you do the inheritance. You do it. Let's say you have gone and there's a dispute. The state can arbiter between the people who dispute that whether the law of inheritance dictated by God was followed or not. That's the only role the state has. The state does not own the property. The state only arbiter between fighting individuals to be fair and just. That's the only role the state has, because the state is not the owner. The owner is God, and God has already decided how the property will be dealt with. One of the teachings of Islam is that you have assets more than your use. You have to keep it in circulation. Let's say if you make more money and you have cash in bank, you have to give some in charity. You have to invest the rest in small businesses, so there is more employment. But frozen assets, as this word that I just read for you, if the asset is not being used for 3 years, other people have claim on it. So keep it rolling. You don't decide. Al-Malik, the real owner, that decide. That's what I understood from this name. And I thought about it for some time. And I thought, this is the message that we should discuss today. So that's all I had to say for this name. And now we can have a discussion. Yes.
From now on, we can look for boys' properties vacant for 3 years.
You can